Preaching of Shallow Hal. The body positivity movement has existed for over 30 years and has significantly influenced American culture. Active since around the year 2000 and even earlier, this movement has pressured men to redefine what they find attractive. This ideology lies at the heart of the 2001 film Shallow Hal. For the record, this is not a film review. It is an examination of the movie's central premise and why it became so problematic for me and many other young men in my faith community at the time of its release. Shallow Hal follows Hal and his friend, who repeatedly go to bars to hit on women, but consistently fail because they are shallow. They judge women solely on physical appearance. One day, Hal meets a life coach who hypnotizes him so that he sees people's inner beauty rather than their outward looks. Suddenly, unattractive people appear beautiful to him. Hal begins viewing his boss's daughter, Rosemary, as stunningly gorgeous. In reality, she is severely obese. As the story progresses, he treats her with affection and cannot understand why others treat her poorly. The only hint he notices is her enormous appetite. Eventually, the hypnosis wears off, and Hal sees people as they truly are physically. By then, however, he is already in a relationship with Rosemary, played by Gwyneth Paltrow in a fat suit. The film concludes with the couple happily driving off into the sunset, with Rosemary carrying Hal to her car. The movie itself is mediocre at best. One of its greatest flaws is the simplistic portrayal of all unattractive people as possessing wonderful inner beauty. This is not true in real life. I have personally known people who are unattractive both inside and out. The film particularly promotes the idea that overweight and obese women are inherently kind-hearted and wonderful. That message disturbed me because the movie refuses to acknowledge that many cases of obesity stem from laziness. Rather than confronting this reality, Shallow Hal engages in heavy virtue signaling, implying that external unattractiveness can be overlooked because inner beauty is what truly matters. This message appealed to many viewers at the time. These flaws form part of my criticism of the film, but they are not the main issue. What troubled me most was how the movie was received in my church community. Many local leaders treated Shallow Hal as virtual gospel. Observing that many returned missionaries were still unmarried, they concluded that the young men were all shallow Hals. These leaders appointed themselves judges of our personal lives and decided that our singleness resulted from being too shallow and unwilling to date the women available to us. Most failed to recognize that the movie featured a poorly written, fictional character in an oversimplified fictional world. Nevertheless, this did not stop members of the church community from accusing young men my age of refusing to date overweight women. To make matters worse, my own father joined this bandwagon, pressuring me to pursue overweight young women. I found this deeply hypocritical. He had often spoken of how attractive my mother was in her youth, and I am certain he would not have married her if he had not found her physically appealing. Many of these same church leaders proudly displayed wedding photos in their offices, showing their own young, attractive, slender wives. It was the height of hypocrisy for them to urge young men to date overweight, unattractive women when they themselves had chosen otherwise. Worse still, this reflected a broader cultural virtue signal, the belief that overweight people are inherently beautiful on the inside. The movement has also functioned as a blight by glorifying obesity while downplaying well-documented health risks. These risks include type 2 diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, stroke, certain cancers, sleep apnea, joint problems, and reduced lifespan. Higher BMI levels are also linked to increased risk of premature death, particularly from cardiovascular causes. Tragically, several plus-size and fat acceptance influencers have died from complications related to these conditions. After spending time around many overweight individuals, clear patterns emerged. Many are lazy. When invited to go to the mall or anywhere requiring physical activity, they frequently decline. Not only because they feel self-conscious about their appearance, but because it demands effort they prefer to avoid. They also tend to lack discipline, which often contributed to their weight gain in the first place. Many complain about their circumstances, but refuse to take meaningful steps to change them. Additionally, they often exhibit poor eating habits, frequently eating out and consuming high-calorie foods, candy, ice cream, and sweets. While there are exceptions and other contributing factors, such as the poor quality of much modern processed food, the core problems usually boil down to lack of exercise, unhealthy eating habits, and insufficient discipline. Overall, Shallow Hal created more problems than it solved. It promoted hypocritical standards. The men in leadership pushed a narrative they themselves would not follow if they were being honest. The film and the way it was used amounted to bullying young men into relationships that were problematic from multiple angles, pairing fit and unfit partners, forcing attraction where little or none existed, and ignoring the long-term health consequences of obesity. Rather than addressing the health and lifestyle issues of overweight women, church leadership chose to scorn the young men instead. They refused to acknowledge that an unhealthy spouse could become both a physical and financial burden to her husband. The message also ignored how this approach was setting up a legacy of laziness and shifting blame onto men. In the end, the movie offered a simplistic, feel-good scapegoat instead of confronting real issues. It gave parents, church leaders, and others an easy target, shallow men, rather than encouraging honest examination of deeper cultural problems or holding women accountable where appropriate. It proved far easier to alienate young men than to confront more difficult truths. Ultimately, this essay serves as a warning to young men. Do not allow others to bully you into situations you know are wrong. People may offer advice with good intentions, yet often fail to consider the full consequences. Marriage is not a team sport. At the end of the day, you alone will live with the choice of whom you marry, for better or worse. Those who pressured you will rarely come to your aid when difficulties arise. In fact, many will hold you fully accountable and deny any role in the outcome. Sometimes you must take the path everyone else condemns, knowing the decision ultimately rests between you and God.